I knew Benoit saying that he was going to create his own demise in this fight. You know, he threw the high kick, immediately shot in a double leg on Paddy Pimblett, who, once he's got your neck, his transitions are unreal. This is something we need to talk about. Nobody's transitioning from A to B like he does in terms of submissions. We've seen it against Bobby Green. You know, we've seen it against Michael Chandler, how quick he mounted him and got the ground and pound. This guy, if you give him an inch on the ground, he will take a mile. And it's mad, you know, he actually famously said before that he's a little weirdo, you know. And obviously that's referencing to his, you know, his unconventional, his grappling, in which it is. You know, that dice that he got in, because he immediately flattened, you know, Benoit sent the knee out when he got his neck, dragged him over with the neck, flattened him out, and got the dice in. But a lot of fighters, you know, when they get the dice in, they'll go for side control, they'll go and try and, you know, mount and stuff. That's the right way to do it in most cases. But he actually got his legs over his shoulder, which, you know, actually really enhanced the torque on Benoit Saint Denis' neck, and it's impressive that he didn't even tap himself. You know, a lot of heart from Benoit Saint Denis. But yeah, Paddy Pimblett's, you know, way of doing things on the ground is massively unconventional. But the problem is, his wrestling is just such a deficit in comparison to his, you know, his BJJ, and that's why a lot of these fighters in the top 5 or top 10 or whatever, they'll be okay against him, I think, because they're not going to try and, you know, they're not going to try and take him down and checkmate him like Benoit Saint Denis. You know, they're not stupid enough to do that, and so obviously I think this was a good stylistic matchup for Paddy, you know. But obviously if he can work on his wrestling and, you know, be someone who can, you know, initiate the takedowns a lot more, then this guy is a problem, man, because his BJJ is special. But yeah, this was a perfect night for him, so good performance.